Live from the BDN Studios, it's Bang and Dang.
That's awesome.
If you don't like that, then
You ain't black.
Back on to the Hells Angels. Like we told you last Hells Angels episode, we ain't done with Canada because we got the old Quebec Biker War, which is a turf war, obviously in Montreal, Quebec.
it'll be the most friendliest biker war you ever seen in your life.
I don't know about that.
I'm gonna shoot at you now, if that's okay.
That lasted from 94 to 2002 between the Quebec branch of the Hells Angels and the Rock Machine, who, after this, guys, we might just continue doing biker gangs, because
Obviously.
the Rock Machine's got a nice little story to them.
They got a cool name,
and
too.
some criminal allegations and incidents throughout the world. So awesome.
Holy shit, they're in Russia?
Yeah, oh shit! Oh, are they?
Oh.
A couple in the United States as well. Look at that. All right, yeah. So maybe we'll do that afterwards. But we got a long one here today about the Quebec Biker War. This war left 162 people dead, including
shit.
civilians. There were also 84 bombings and 130 cases of arson.
What's up with the outlaws loving the Angels loving bombs, dude? Or any biker gang. It's the weirdest shit I've ever seen in my life.
What easier way to take out a bunch of people?
I
Obviously.
guess.
The Hells Angels first entered Canada, which we know via patch over of the Popeyes of Montreal on December 5th, 1977, and subsequently established dominance in Quebec during the first Biker War, right, in which they vanquished outlaws from the province.
Right.
However, the club was severely weakened by the Lennoxville Massacre on the 24th of March, when 5 members of the Angels chapter in Laval were shot by their clubmates.
Damn.
As the Laval chapter of the Angels had been liquidated, the leaders of the Sorel chapter fled Canada upon learning that they were also targeted.
Ooh-wee. Well, in the aftermath of the massacre, Michael Lengoy, they call him Sky, the national president of the Canadian Hells Angels, he fled to Morocco. Well, that's where, after a warrant for his arrest was issued on the charges of first-degree murder. Afterward, the vacuum left by the Hells Angels, which was a Hoover, a pretty expensive one,
Right.
it was filled by a number of Montreal-based organized crime groups, such as the Rock Machine. And it was not until the early 1900s, and it was not until the early 1990s that the Angels became a major force in Montreal organized crime once again. In the early 80s, though, Maurice Boucher, they called him Mom, and Salvador Gazetta, they were leaders of the white supremacist SS motorcycle gang, dominating organized crime in the Pointe-aux-Trembles district of Montreal.
In 1986, following a prison sentence for sexually assaulting a 6-year-old girl, he quickly rose to become the club's leader. Good for you, Hells Angels. Boucher, who became a Foley Patch Hells Angel May 1st, 1987, he became president of the Sorel chapter later that year. One of Boucher's friends was Guy Lepage, a former Montreal police officer who was dismissed from the force for associating with mafiosi, and who became his main contact with the mafia.
Boucher's deflection to the Hells Angels resulted in a rift between Gazetta, who had sworn against working with the Angels over the involvement in the Lennoxville Massacre the previous year. Gazetta instead formed his own motorcycle club, and it was called the Rock Machine, with his brother Giovanni. Oh, nice. Around this time, Quebec had earned a reputation as a hotbed of violence and had become known within the biker world as the Red Zone. The Italo-Canadian Gazetta was not a member of the Mafia, but he did have a close relationship with the Montreal Mafia. As a result of his Mafia ties, the Hells Angels were unwilling to challenge the Rock Machine as long as he was their leader. He's like, we ain't fucking with the mob.
Nope. Well, Gazetta has often been described as controlling all of the organized crime in Montreal that was not controlled by the Mafia in the late 80s and early 90s.
What's left?
Right. March 26, 92, as part of a push to recruit more members, the Hells Angels created a puppet club known as the Rockers Motorcycle Club,
Oh, no
or
shit.
Motor Club.
Damn, look at these guys.
This was a common tactic on the part of the Angels to provide more manpower and a wider pool of followers willing to commit crimes in order to become Hells Angels.
Okay.
It is standard for members of a puppet club to commit most of the crimes in the hope that they will be promoted to the rank of prospect within the Hells Angels proper.
It's kind of smart
Right,
there.
so have all these other little
Right.
dudes do it for you, but they're not officially Hells Angels, so
Right.
it can't come back on you.
Fan-fucking-tastic. A British policeman told journalist Patrick Letenier about the use of puppet clubs by the Angels. He said this, however, the paranoia that new recruits might be infiltrators from law enforcement or even journalists causes much angst around their selection. To try and avoid this, potential members are treated like shit and asked to perform various tasks to prove their worth. Oh, dude, they're doing some gruesome shit, probably. These are often degrading or illegal, the rationale being that a UC, which is undercover cop, or similar, wouldn't have the stomach for this or have the necessary authority to actually commit crimes.
Right.
Yeah, you can't. If you're undercover, you can't commit crimes, and if you do, you're held accountable to them. The downside of this is that the attrition rate is very high. However, those determined to wear the patch will do as they are ordered, and that's what makes these gangs so dangerous, quote, unquote.
Sir. Well, the war officially began as the Hells Angels in Quebec began to make a push to establish a monopoly on street-level drug sales in the province in 1993. In Quebec, most of the illegal drugs were imported by the mafia and distributed by the biker gangs to various street-level drug dealers. The journalist André Sedelat, an expert on biker gangs in Quebec, stated in an interview, he says, the mafia were in charge of importation and the Hells Angels were the distributors. Internationally, the mafia has a better reputation than the Hells Angels because the Colombians don't trust the Hells Angels, but they do trust the mafia.
It's because the mafia has a code like not blowing people up with bombs all over the damn place, and jeez. In Quebec, the power of the mafia was limited by the fact that it was only open to those who were Sicilians or of Sicilian descent. In contrast, the Quebec bikers were and remain mostly French-Canadian. When Cazetta was arrested on charges on importing cocaine from the United States in 1994, the Angels saw an opportunity to challenge the Rock Machine.
There we go.
He spent 10 years in United States prison for attempting to smuggle 200 kilograms of cocaine into Canada. Holy shit. Just 10 years?
The laws are a little lax back then, apparently.
And fucking George Young got less than that. I mean, more than that for less. Claude Vizina, he was president of the Rock Machine's Quebec City chapter at the time. Became the club's new national president when Cazetta was serving his 10-year sentence. So that means open fucking
season.
Yep.
Vezina.
Vezina?
You know,
like the Vezina
trophy.
Vizina?
Renaud Jampfe, he was made president of the Montreal chapter, while Marcel Demers became the president of the Quebec City chapter, until eventually opening the Beauport chapter in 96. In early 90s, various independent gangs controlled drug sales territories in eastern and northern Montreal, including Saint Denis Street, as well as in Laval, Mascouche, Terrebonne, Saint-Sauveur, and Saint-Adèle. A number of drug dealers and crime families, such as the Dark Circle, the Pelletier clan, the Rock Machine, the Palmers, and former members of the Devil's Disciples resisted the Hells Angels' attempts at monopolization and established a coalition known as the Alliance to Fight the Angels.
I mean,
you don't ever want an alliance against you. That's all I'm saying.
Right. The subsequent Guerre des Motades resulted in the bombings of many establishments and murders on both sides. It claimed more than 160 lives, including one of Daniel Desrochers. He was an 11-year-old boy who was fatally injured by shrapnel as he was playing near a Jeep that was blown up. These bastards.
See.
Peter Edwards, the crime correspondent of the Toronto Star, he wrote The Rock Machine. He wrote The Rock Machine wasn't really a motorcycle club at all. Members didn't have to own a bike-to-bike. What brothers Giovanni and Salvatore Cassetta sought to create was a cohesive confederation of drug-dealing groups.
The Hells Angels attempted to dislodge the Rock Machine and their allies from the Montreal drug market and issued an ultimatum that anyone dealing drugs in the city would have to buy from them.
Oh.
Maurice Boucher organized puppet clubs to persuade Rock Machine-controlled bars and their resident drug dealers to surrender the illegal drug business.
Oh, shit.
In response,
strong arming these motherfuckers.
Right. In response, Rock Machine created the Palmers Motorcycle Club, a Rock Machine puppet club created to counter the Hells Angels and their Rockers and Death Riders puppet club.
Uh-oh.
The Palmers had chapters in both Montreal and Quebec City and were led and organized by Rock Machine members John Duquer, named, they call him La Franca, and Andre Dede de Sormo. Sorry, guys, these are French words.
Right, no one knows how to speak that, not even French. De Sormo was a member of the Dark Circle and later joined the Rock Machine.
All right.
Rejecting the Angels' ultimatum, the Alliance launched a series of attacks against the Angels, beginning on 13th of July, 1994, when the Death Riders member Pierre Dolst was shot dead by 3 Rock Machine associates while working in his motorcycle shop in Rivière des Prairies. The following day, Rockers member Norman Robitaille, he survived a shooting in Montreal. His name was Norm, they call him. Later on the 14th of July in 1994, the Sûreté du Québec arrested 5 Rock Machine members, including Norman Baker, who were found in possession of firearms, explosives, detonators, and they all did this while en route to attack the South Shore clubhouse of the Evil Ones, which was also a Hells Angels puppet club.
Jeez. 15th of July 1994, senior Hells Angels from across Quebec were summoned by Boucher to an emergency meeting at a hotel in Longueuil to take a vote on whether or not they wanted to take part in biker war against the Alliance. Don't think you want to turn that down anyways.
Right.
According to Sherbrooke Hells Angel turned Crown Witness, Sylvain Boulanger, the Montreal, Troy Riviere, and Quebec City chapters, Michel Langoy, and Maurice Boucher of the Montreal faction, and Quebec City chapter Vice President Marc Pelletier, in particular, were strongly in favor, while only the Sherbrooke chapter leaders were against retaliation against their rivals. They're like, dude, do you know what this is going to do?
Right. Well, despite Sherbrooke's initial holdout, the chapter eventually relented in August of 94, providing the Hells Angels leadership the unanimous vote required to go to war against the Alliance.
Oh, wow. Well, they need a unanimous vote to do this, but they don't give a fuck about blowing up kids on the block.
19th of October, 1994, local drug dealer Maurice Lavoie gunned down in his car while his girlfriend was wounded. Lavoie had previously been buying his wares from the Pelletier clan associated with the Rock Machine, but he had recently switched to the Angels, and as a result, the Pelletier clan hired a hitman named Patrick Hall to kill Lavoie. You've been called upon.
October 28, 1994, Sylvain Pelletier, the leader of the Pelletier clan, was killed by the Hells Angels,
no shit.
who threatened to murder any drug dealer who did not buy their supplies from them.
Oh.
After these killings, an increasingly murderous struggle for the control of the drug trade in Montreal began between the Angels and the Rock Machine that would not end until 2002.
Holy shit.
The favorite weapon of both biker gangs was dynamite stolen from mines and construction sites.
Oh, my.
The use of dynamite came with a high risk of wounding or killing bystanders, which they don't give a shit, as well as risks for those using it as a weapon.
Oh.
Right.
Damn. Well, after the beloved Pelletier was moited, the independent drug dealers of Montreal formed an alliance to fight the Angels, headed by his bro, Harold Pelletier, whose first act was an attempt to assassinate Boucher in November of 1994. Another member of Pelletier clan, Martin Simard, he purchased enough stolen dynamite to fill a truck, which was left near Boucher's favorite restaurant by the alliance member, Martin Pellerine.
Jeez.
The plan was to set off the explosives by remote control when Boucher arrived, killing him and everybody else in the restaurant. Damn. But a Montreal parking officer noticed that the truck was illegally parked, and he had it towed, thus unknowingly foiling the
Holy
spot.
shit, and almost killing everybody that was in the tow
kidding,
yard.
Son of a bitch. 4th of November, 1994, Rock Machine member Daniel Bertrand shot dead while drinking in a Montreal bar. Poor guy. 4th of December, 1994, another Rock Machine member, Bruno Bandiera, murdered when he was by a bomb that he was transporting in his car, exploded prematurely. Oh, that's why you don't fuck with bombs, man.
Right.
Jeez.
Put it in some damn rabbit and a bunch of towels or something so your bumps ain't fucking... Jeez. Well, the Pelletier clan and the Rock Machine were the most visible parts of the alliance to fight the Angels, but its most influential part was the secretive Dark Circle, who was a group of Montreal businessmen who were secretly engaging in the drug trade. Oh. What the Dark Circle all had in common was that all of them owned bars and or restaurants from which drugs were sold and drug money laundered. Bars in particular were a business where transactions were often in cash, lending themselves well to money laundering. It was agreed that the Pelletier clan and the Rock Machine would provide the muscle, while the Dark Circle would provide the money.
The Dark Circle's leadership was provided by a committee of 5. The chairman was Michael Duclos. He was a Montreal school teacher. He also owned a bar, which was a front for the laundering profits from the drug trade. November 1994, disgruntled member of the Rockers, they called him Danny Kane, a protege of senior Angels leader David Carell, they called him Wolf. He contacted the Interpol offices in Ottawa. He said that he wanted to sell info to the Popo.
Sell it.
Carroll had founded the Angels map chapter in Halifax in 1984 and moved to Montreal in 1990 to assist the president of the Montreal chapter, Maurice Boucher, although his French was very limited. He really didn't need it, right?
It is generally believed that Carroll was in Montreal to assist the planned expansion of the Angels in Ontario, since he, together with National President Volodymyr Stadnik and Donald Pup Stockford were the only Anglos in the Quebec Angels leadership. Neither Stadnik nor Stockford spoke French, and police wiretap showed that when the leaders of the Angels met, interpreters were needed for them to participate.
I mean, what are you going to do?
Carroll, meanwhile, had spent 2 years in a Quebec prison between 85 and 87, awaiting first-degree murder charges for his role in the Lennoxville massacre.
Learn some French there, right?
During which he learned some French.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Wow. At the request of Carroll and Stadnik, Kane, he founded a puppet club from the Angels in Toronto called the Demon Keepers Motorcycle Club. Fantastic. However, the Demon Keepers ended in a fiasco, with the entire group being put behind bars by authorities without even making a single drug sale. And Kane sought revenge by working with the Popo.
Revenge for what? You being dumb?
Right. Interpol put Kane into contact with Staff Sergeant Jean-Pierre Levesque of the Royal Canadian Mounted Popo, who appointed Corporal Pierre Verdun of Montreal to be his handler.
At their first meeting, November 4th, 94, Kane told Verdun that the leader of the Angels in Quebec was Maurice Mom Boucher, whom he described as a highly dangerous man who was feared by the other Angels, who was planning to murder anyone who might oppose him in his plans to take over the drug trade in Quebec.
I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Some of the information sold by Kane to the... He sold it, too. How much is he getting paid?
Right.
Some of the information sold by Kane to the police was self-serving and incorrect. And when he named another angel as responsible for a murder that he himself had committed in 95. Oh, jeez.
You dirty bastard. However, Kane's information was mostly accurate, and he is the main source of info about the biker war from the Angels' perspective. Oh, Kane, he was leading a double life in more than one sense. As the ostensibly straight Kane was having a secret relationship with another rocker they call Amy Simard.
Don't tell me this is a dude. Hitman.
Oh, it's
he was
a guy.
Member. Yes.
Oh my gosh! No! Son of a... Kane mentioned to Verdun that one of the Angels, which was an American living in Montreal named Scott Steinhardt, was willing to do anything to win the war, and he went on a dynamite spying spree, adding that both Boucher and Steinhardt were furious when they learned about the dynamite packed truck left by the restaurant.
I would be too.
Right.
On January 1st, 95, Norman Baker, a Rock Machine member, was murdered while drinking in a Hard Rock Cafe in Acapulco by the Hells Angels' Francois Hinz.
Oh, shit.
Baker had been one of the killers of Doust, who... and his murder while on vacation in Mexico was intended to send the message that no one who crossed the Angels was safe anywhere.
Right.
Hinz was arrested by the Mexican police, but freed after a Mexican judge was bribed with some 700,000 Canadian dollars to dismiss the murder charges. January 30th, 95, Jacques Furland, a chemist who worked for the Rock Machine, was murdered in Quebec City in a house by the Hells Angels hitman Serge Kuznel.
27th February 1995, Claude Cassette, a Rock Machine member, shot dead while he was sitting in his van. Claude Rivard, drug dealer for Pelletier clan, murdered while his car was stopped for a red light. Damn, dude died like Lonzo, son of a bitch. His killers, Serge Quiznel and Richard Vallet, then engaged in a car chase followed by the Montreal Popo, but they were able to escape on foot.
Makes sense.
Nice. 23rd of March, 1995, Quiznel murdered an independent drug dealer associated to the Rock Machine. They called him Richard Belcourt. They did that by persuading him to visit Quebec City and then shooting him in the head halfway along the journey after pulling over on a remote rural road. Damn. Jeez. Hey, pull over here. I take a piss.
Right. Kuznel was a professional hitman for the Troy Riviere chapter of the Hells Angels who had murdered a drug dealer named Richard Jobin on 9th of September 1993 to give himself the underworld reputation as a killer. October of 93, Kuznel murdered another independent drug dealer, Martin Naud, by ramming a pair of scissors through one of his eyes and then used the scissors to cut his throat.
Oh, my goodness.
November of 94, he was permitted to join the Troy Riviere chapter of the Hells Angels after the president of that chapter, Luce Roy, they call him Melo, he decided that he was the type of killer he wanted in his chapter. I bet.
Well, he's the type of killer that you want close by, or your friend, or I don't care.
Yeah, you don't want him after you.
I'll still not even sleep with both eyes closed around that motherfucker. Why? Right?
Probably, right?
Why? Why told Quiznel he would be paid $500 a week and $10,000 every time he committed a murder. And an offer that Quiznel promptly accepted. He's like, well, that sounds good. He's like, I can murder somebody every day, baby. Yeah. Quiznel's career as a hitman was cut short when he was arrested on the 1st of April, 1995, leading him to turn Crown's evidence in exchange for becoming eligible for parole after 12 years.
Holy shit.
And he had to pay $390,000 in fines. Wah was arrested and charged with murder, but guess what? Not enough evidence. Acquitted April 1997.
He didn't have to pay the Crown. The Crown paid him.
All right, the Crown paid him $390,000. Damn, this dude.
Shit. If you want to turn informant, apparently you want to do it in Canada, not
plus,
America.
They're scared because he was a fucking hitman.
Probably. On June 24th, 95, Boucher founded the Nomads, which was an elite chapter of the Angels that, unlike the other chapters, had a new geographical limit and were able to operate all over Canada. To join the Nomads, applicants were required to commit murders, which ensured that no undercover police agents could enter the Nomads chapter. Additionally, only the highest quality Angels who had proven themselves could join the Nomads. Several members of the Angels Montreal chapter, which was the oldest chapter in Canada, they resented the way in which the Nomads came to overshadow them as the premier Hells Angels chapter in Canada, but none dared to challenge Boucher.
A most notorious incident of the Graz des Motards, on the 9th of August, 1995, there was a drug dealer named Marc Dubé. He was killed by a bomb planted in his Jeep. Daniel Disrokers, an 11-year-old boy playing across the street, which we had mentioned earlier, died. Remains unclear whether it was the Angels or the Rock Machine who planted the bomb. Kane, in his reports to Verdun, mentioned that Steinhardt, whom he described as an arrogant and aggressive bully, he was acting very strangely after the death of Disrokers. So you think it was Kane? Steinhardt?
Well, maybe Kane described Steinhardt as acting very worried and expressing the fear that he might finally have to go to prison or be deported from Canada, which led Kane to the conclusion that he was the one who planted the bomb that had killed the kid, and it was now worried about a police crackdown. Kane reported, since that day, Steinhardt no longer talked about the bombs he had ordered and never spoke again about using bombs.
Oh.
Steinhardt asked some of his crew what they thought about the bombing. When they told him that they thought the murderer should be liquidated, Steinhardt didn't respond and became very pensive.
No shit. According to Kane, Boucher, and Steinhardt, they discussed a plan to win over public opinion by killing one of their own in an especially brutal manner out of hope that the public would blame the Rock Machine. Damn. Dubé, who was a low-level drug dealer working for the Angels, was chosen as that to be sacrificed. Damn. The Popo report describes Steinhardt as a very violent and cruel psychopath who can't control himself, quote-unquote, concluding that he was a prime suspect for the bombing. The cops also stated that the fact that whoever controlled the bomb that killed Dubé was aware that there was children playing across the street, fitted in with what was known for Steinhardt's character and with what Kane had reported.
Well, Commander André Bouchard of the Service de Police de la Ville de Montreal, he stated, I'm convinced today that the person who pressed the button to have the bomb explode, he saw children across the street. There was no way he could not see the children across the street. Now, Renaud Jomfay, who was president of the Rock Machine Montreal chapter, he was interviewed and told reporter Michael Auger of the Journal de Montreal, he said, we don't attack or target. We certainly don't kill children.
Oh.
He also stated the Hells Angels as a bunch of goons on a power trip.
Oh, shit. Plan gonna backfire on these motherfuckers? 15th September 1995. Richard Iman, they call him Crow. He was gunned down in the parking lot while helping his girlfriend get out of a car, becoming the first fully patched Hells Angels to be murdered by the Rock Machine.
It's been 3 years. The only people getting killed are Rock Machines.
Iman had just replaced Roy Waugh as the president of the Troy Riviere chapter.
Why has he gotten... you guys are in a biker war. Why do you not have people around you?
Don't they learn from the mob?
Right.
Come on. 21st of September, the day after Iman's funeral, 3 Rock Machine members, Benoit Grignon, Danielle Paul, and Pierre Patry, murdered as they tried to plant a bomb outside the St. Luc clubhouse of the Jokers and the Angels Puppet Club, which was an Angels Puppet Club whose activities were previously overseen by Imond. You dumb bastards. I wonder how they were killed. By the bomb exploding prematurely?
Well, Grignon, Paul, and Patry died when a Jokers member fired a shotgun at the trio, which caused the explosive to detonate. 2 other bombings were also carried out on the same day, one targeting a strip club in Laval, and another at a used car dealership in Montreal Est. No casualties were reported in these attacks, although several cars at the dealership were damaged. By October 95, the police would list 30 murders committed in Montreal as being connected to the biker war, and it ain't over yet.
Wow. In response to the public outrage over the death of Dick Rochers, the federal, Quebec, and Montreal governments announced on the 5th of October 1995 the much vaunted Operation Carajol.
Carcajou?
Right. An elite joint task force consisting of the best detectives from the Canadian police, the mounted police, that is, the Sûreté de Quebec, and the Service de Police de la Ville de Montréal. I don't know how you say that. Fire the Montreal police as well.
Right.
This was supposed to end the biker war swiftly and promptly and bring justice to those responsible for the death of that 11-year-old boy, Desrokers. Operation Carcajou, it proved to be a fiasco. Guess why? Politics. Everything's a fiasco with politics. If you put politics in anything, it's a shit show. From 1994 to 2003, Quebec was governed by the separatist Parti Québécois, and relations between Ottawa and Quebec City, which were difficult in the best of times, were highly acrimonious.
PQ government blamed the Liberal Prime Minister Jean Chrétien, claiming that existing laws were insufficient to deal with the bikers. PQ officials also claimed that Canada needed a tough anti-gang law modeled after the RICO Act in America that would make membership in criminal organizations illegal. The Croatian government for a long time resisted this pressure, claiming the existing laws were just fine to deal with the biker war and that it was just up to Quebec to apply them.
Oh, shit. Both sides had their own agenda, though, with the Quebec City using the unwillingness of the federal government to pass a RICO-type act as evidence of the Ottawa's supposed indifference to Quebec, thus justifying separatism, while Ottawa used the inability of Quebec City to deal with the biker war as evidence of Quebec's incompetence in maintaining law and order, thus justifying federalism. The feud between the federal and Quebec governments affected Operation Carcajou, with the Royal Crown Mounted Police and the Sûreté de Quebec.
Okay.
So there's infighting going on with both these governments, too, so...
Detectives spent their time feuding with one another and made almost no serious efforts to investigate crimes committed by the bikers, as the detectives were much more interested in pursuing their vendettas against one another. One detective who served on Operation Carcajou later told journalists William Marsden and Julian Schur that the operation was completely ineffective owing to the poisoned relations between Quebec City and Ottawa during this period.
Sergeant Gaetan Saint-On of the Canadian Mounted Police, who served with the Carcajou squad, stated this: Wolverine was a total circus. The SQ was jealous of the RCMP source, which was Kane. They were always asking his name.
Who's your guy?
Right.
I can't tell you your guy. It's
The
like in Departed.
Right. Who's your guy? I can't tell you that, man. The SQ used to give out the names of their sources all the time. They're like, hey, man,
Not this time.
They didn't care if they were blown.
What piece of shit.
They treated them like dirt. At meetings, they would just blurt their source's name and expect everybody to keep it quiet.
Typical of the approach of the Carcajou squad was the police reaction to the funeral of the Hells Angels' Robert Richard on 29th of February 96. Out of the concern of a possible rock machine attack on those attending the funeral, the Carcajou squad sent some extra police officers to provide security, leading to President of Provincial Police Unit Luc Savard to denounce the squad, as he maintained the Sorel Police force was capable of providing the security. Likewise, the mayor of Quebec City, Jean-Paul Lallier, wanted the Carcajou squad to take the anti-biker activity in his city because he believed this would mean the Quebec City police would not have to be involved, and in this way he would save his city much money.
Well, the Royal Commission, chaired by Justice Lawrence Poitras, that was set up to examine the Sûreté du Québec after the case against the West End gang boss Gerald Maddox collapsed when detectives were caught planting evidence. Blasted Operation Carcajou as a colossal waste of money in its 1998 report.
Son of a bitch.
The Poitras Commission in its report stated that the Operation Carcajou was characterized by the dysfunctional relationships, clashing egos, and bureaucratic infighting with the Service des Police de la Ville de Montreal.
Holy shit.
Only interested in making a power grab.
Okay.
And the RCMP and the Sûreté du Québec only interested in ensuring that the blame for the continuing biker war fell on the other service. Yeah, I mean, you're not going to get nothing done when you can blame everybody else.
Sounds like the FBI and the FDA and all that shit.
Right.
The Poitras Commission spoke of a virtual police war was being waged inside of the Carcajou squad, with the detectives from the RCMP and the Sûreté du Québec openly feuding with each other.
Openly.
Oh, man. The Poitras blasted the chief of the Carcajou squad, Michael Arcand of the Sûreté du Québec, saying he had contemptuous attitude about upholding the law, and that it was totally inappropriate for him to be the director of the Carcajou squad. As a result, Arcand fired. Get the hell out of here.
After that, Commander Bouchard joined the Operation Carcajou in 1995 and started with raiding businesses controlled by the outlaw bikers, always dressed in his full uniform in order to show he was not afraid of the bikers.
Ooh, I like that.
Initially, Bouchard described Carcajou as an impressively well-funded operation with the most modern equipment, but described we're not saying Sûreté du Québec anymore.
No.
We're going to be, for now on, known as the Quebec Police, okay?
Right.
But described the Quebec Police detectives, who were part of the Operation Carcajou, as having questionable ethics.
And Carcajou means Wolverines.
Right. In a visit to Quebec City, Bouchard was taken by several Quebec police detectives to a restaurant where all the food and drinks were on the house.
Bouchard described the scene as this. He said, I walk in, and they got a party going on in there. This is a sit-down supper. You know, booze, wine, $50 a bottle. Jeez. Nobody's paying. And you started to think, what the fuck is going on here? Is this a protected bar? Okay. So they never take down a Hell's Angel or a rock machine or someone who's in the bar. They let them alone. That's not good.
Oh.
Quote, unquote. Look at this guy. He's just ready to pounce on these sons of bitches. Bouchard also described the Quebec police detectives as having dubious expense accounts.
He stated, my guys from Montreal are interrogating a source at some motel. They order a pizza and 4 Cokes or whatever, talk to the guy for a couple hours, and then they order a club sandwich. But the SQ guys were coming in with invoices for stays at the Ritz-Carlton. Steak, dinner, wine. I was asked to sign bills for $800.
Oh, shit.
I go, fuck you, I'm not signing this. You interrogate a piece of shit, you interrogate him in a motel. You don't interrogate him at the fucking Ritz.
Oh.
Jeez.
No,
I mean,
man.
right, why would you go to the Ritz?
Right. Holy shit, this guy, and he should have been here all along.
Right.
Bouchard stated that he left Operation Carcajou in 1996 out of disgust with the uncooperative attitude of the Quebec police, saying this, they were doing secret jobs. We didn't even know. We found out the next morning there'd be 7 guys in the cells. Where in the fuck did they come from? That's when it got a little rough. Quote, unquote.
These Quebecers love the F word, don't they?
You ain't kidding.
Oh, well, reminds me of 2 fucking ignorant podcasters.
Despite the outrage, little was done to stop the carnage as the Service de Police de la Ville de Montréal, which has long been notorious as the most corrupt police force in all of Canada. They preferred to take bribes from biker gangs and look the other way.
From both gangs.
Right, from both of the gangs. The policemen that are unwilling to accept bribes from the bikers found themselves receiving death threats, and their cars were torched by arsonists. Damn.
1998, one policeman who worked undercover in Montreal, he complained it was impossible to have charges filed against the bikers stick in courts as judge, prosecutors, and jurors had all been bribed. Benoit Roberge, a senior detective with the Service de Police de la Ville de Montréal, in charge of stopping the Quebec biker war, instead cultivated a close business relationship with the Hells Angels leader named Rene Charlebois, selling his information.
Oh.
Kane, the informant guy, told his handlers in 95 that somebody in the senior ranks of the Montreal police was selling Boucher information.
Oh, shit.
As Boucher had often boasted to him that he knew everything that the police knew about him.
Oh, shit. I mean, you got to, right? Kind of like that movie The Departed.
Right.
Kane also told the RCMP that the Hells Angels paid double a policeman's weekly salary for info, and that much of the Montreal Popo were working for them, causing him to ask that the RCMP should never, ever again share information with the Montreal police, lest he be exposed.
Oh, wow.
An additional problem with handling outlaw biker cases was the state of the Crown attorneys in Quebec. There were 84 Crown attorneys, which are prosecutors, in Montreal, who had 4 secretaries at their service. Damn, that's it? Holy shit. Wow. I think I would be hiring my own secretary.
Right.
This required the Crown attorneys to do much of their own paperwork, leaving them little time to even prepare for cases. Oh, wow.
Well, that's not good.
Ooh.
Well, furthermore, until 2002, Crown attorneys in Quebec were not provided with computers, forcing them to write out their notes on typewriters or by hand, nor did they have access to online criminal databases. What the fuck?
no.
What kind of country is this? The law library in Montreal was so antiquated that the Crown attorneys sometimes had to ask defense lawyers for information on the current jurisprudence.
Do they have to give them information?
I would assume, right?
I think so, right?
I don't know if they have to, but pretty sure if they want information.
Wow.
Well, Crown attorneys in Quebec had the lowest salaries for prosecutors in Canada, receiving half of what Crown attorneys made in Ontario, and those who took in outlaw biker cases received no security for themselves or their families. Yeah, why would you want to prosecute then?
Well, typically a single Crown attorney would be assigned a case concerning outlaw bikers instead of the 4 or 6 that were normally assigned in other provinces. Damn. And those who could not handle the pressure were seen as failures by the superiors. No, you're asking these guys to do a hell of a lot.
Right.
As the outlaw bikers usually had well-paid defense lawyers, the Crown attorneys often found themselves overwhelmed by the heavy burden of work, leading to frequent burnouts. They didn't even give a shit anymore. Rene Domingue, the Crown attorney who prosecuted the men responsible for the Lennoxville massacre in 1986, was assigned to the Operation Carcajou squad as its legal counsel in 1995. Ooh.
Well, he stated that the Crown gave the Carcajou squad a budget of $5 million, but none for the Crown attorneys.
Oh, shit.
He also said, I was alone on a part-time basis. I was running around like a madman and unable to do any decent work. Another Crown attorney, Francois Legault, who prosecuted Hell's Angel Richard Vallet in 97, found himself handling the case alone and having to do some of the police work himself.
Oh, son of a bitch.
He said the police were totally disorganized. They didn't know how to do a case like this. They didn't have the structure to properly organize the evidence.
Holy shit. Well, this is all new to them, so. Damn bikers.
Is it?
Right.
They've been in there since the 70s.
It's true. After working for 75 hours a week on the Vallet case for over a year without any help, Legault had a nervous breakdown and he lost his case. Crown attorney Lucy DeFranze. She found herself in 1998 taking on 5 defense lawyers on the case of 5 rockers who were charged with killing Jean-Marc Casey of the Rock Machine. She said this: "I asked for help and I was refused. This was a huge case with all sorts of proof, electronic wiretaps, an informant, and I was told there's nobody available."
In the middle of her trial, she suffered what she called her humiliating nervous breakdown as well.
Holy shit.
She has not tried a case since 1998. And she said, "I adore it, but I'm no longer capable."
Right.
You push and push and push until the machine breaks. The vision here is always short term.
Oh, wow.
Domingue, on the other hand, told journalists Sharon Marsden, "If you look at the rate or percentages of success in cases solved against the Angels, I would say they kill with impunity.
Oh.
They have reasons to laugh at the law because they could do what they wanted, but for the odd arrest here and there.
Right.
We ended up being their best place to prosper. We didn't take them seriously enough."
Oh, wow. In Canada, belonging to a criminal organization like the Mafia or the Angels was not in itself a crime. Oh, wow.
And they don't have the RICO.
Right. And prosecutors could not even convict a mafioso or an angel if it could be established that they had committed a crime. Wow.
Could only
They
convict.
could only convict. Under the RICO Act in the United States, membership of a criminal organization was made a criminal offense, thus making the job of American prosecutors so much easier. The Charitian government refused to pass a RICO-type law. Quebec's like, fuck off. Citing concerns about civil liberties, and the closest it came was a bill which was called C-95 in 1997. It increased the penalties if it could be established that someone had committed a crime in the service of a criminal organization. I guess you're working to it. Get there, right?
I guess. How long does it get there, though?
Right.
That bill was passed in 97, and journalist Timothy Appleby and Tu Tanaha of the Globe and Mail observed in 2000 that nobody had even been convicted under the bill offenses. 1997, the Crack-a-Juke squad decided the best way to end the war was to put the Rock Machine out of business, arguing that the Rock Machine was the weaker of the two clubs, and the war would end once the Rock Machine was removed from the scene. January 29, 1997, 7 Rock Machine members were arrested on charges of conspiracy to commit murder in connection with the failed murder plot against Boucher in 1994. Yeah, I guess you got to get rid of one of them.
Right.
97 of May, the Rock Machine clubhouses in Montreal and Quebec City were raided while the police arrested 18 Rock Machine members, seized 225 kilos of explosives, particularly TNT.
Uh-oh.
The police confiscated the Montreal clubhouse after drugs were found within the premises.
Damn. Reflecting the way that the Angels were winning the war. In October 95, Harold Pelletier, one of the heads of the Pelletier clan, turned himself into the Quebec police, confessing that on the night of the 7th of August in the year of 1983, he murdered a drug dealer named Michael Boileau, who was behind his payments to the Pelletier clan. He asked that the police provide him with protection from the Angels in exchange for more info about his crimes. Oh.
Yeah. Ultimately, he confessed to committing 17 murders
Oh.
between 83 and 95.
Oh.
Yet he was only convicted of the murder of Boileau. Pelletier's murder of Boileau was classified as second-degree murder, despite the fact he had fallen asleep after Pelletier got him drunk before he opened fire.
Oh, man.
Since the murder was premeditated, it should have been first degree, obviously.
Yes.
In his plea bargain in June 96, Pelletier was sentenced to life with a promise that he would receive full parole after 10 years served in exchange for everything he knew about the Montreal underworld.
Oh.
Damn, served 10 years for 17 murders? Yeah, might
Right.
as well.
The Crown justified the plea bargain with him, given that he was guilty of 17 murders, on the grounds that he was a mine of information about the underworld of Montreal. We got to clean Quebec up, baby. Pelletier's motives for striking a plea bargain was the alliance against the Angels was collapsing, with alliance members defecting over to the Angels, and he wanted the Crown protection from the Angels for himself. However, he violated the terms of his plea bargain, as they all do, under which he promised not to commit any more crimes. I mean, come on, it's like asking a dolphin to stay out of the water. I don't know. When he was caught in 2002, attempted to bribe another prison inmate to kill a prisoner who he disliked.
Oh.
Wow, and this allowed the Crown to revoke its agreement, and he was not released until June of 2006, as was promised 10 years earlier.
He was not released in June of 2006.
Right.
He was supposed to get out in June
Right,
of
that's
2006.
right. He was not released in June 2006, as
Well,
promised.
he did finally receive a full parole December 2013.
Ooh.
After he completed his high school equivalency degree.
Another 7 years, dude. He spent 17 years in prison, one for every fucking murder.
He also started attending Alcohol Anonymous meetings. I think he's pretty much alcohol-free.
17 years, right?
And
the toilet water?
Maybe. And demonstrated an ability to get along with penitentiary staff. January 96, go back. Hell's Angel associate Glenn Cormier was murdered in Quebec City.
Oh, shit.
March of 96, Kane murdered a drug dealer, Roland Labrasseur, who refused to buy drugs from the Hells Angels.
Uh-oh.
After getting over a scare caused by the killing of De Rochers,
That 11-year-old.
Steiner was living high at this time, receiving the Filthy Few patch in March of 96, awarded to those who killed for the Angels, and he got a full patch at the same time.
Fantastic. Look at this guy. Scott Steiner was the biggest pimp. Oh, damn right he was.
Oh, yeah.
Pimping ain't easy.
Fucking Big Bad Voodoo Daddy.
Ew.
Daddy.
Yeah, he was the biggest pimp in Montreal.
He's like, where are my freaks?
He had the largest arms in the world. Owning the Sensations Escort Service, whose office in Montreal was destroyed in the case of Austin in August of 1996. And guess who did that? The Rock Machine, baby. Mid-1996, Marcel Demers, who had been acting president of the Quebec City chapter, he created a second Rock Machine chapter in the United States. Nope, in that very city of Quebec City. It was located in the suburb of Beauport. With the Demers becoming the president of the new Beauport chapter, Frederick Fulcher was promoted to president of the Quebec City chapter. He's like, hey, take my...
The success of the Sensations Escort Service caused tensions with Carroll, whose Adventure Escort Service suffered as Steiner wanted all the profits from prostitution for himself. Steiner founded what he called his Groupe des Cinq to take over all the bars and nightclubs in Crescent Street in Montreal and branch out to Ontario to take over the bars and nightclubs on York Street there.
Okay.
Or in Ottawa, I mean. Steiner also had plans to take over bars, restaurants, and nightclubs of Toronto, Kingston, and Winnipeg. Not content with Canada, he also had got into contact with the New York Mafia
Got to.
send strippers from Quebec to a mafia-owned resort in the Dominican Republic.
Oh.
Jeez.
All right. The Angels had their own surveillance unit with 3 vehicles equipped with hidden cameras, batteries that lasted for 72 hours that were discreetly placed on the streets to collect footage of various targets. Damn, look at these guys. The funeral of Mafia boss Frank Catrani's mother was recorded as Boucher wanted footage of the faces and the license plates of all who attended the funeral. He was planning to liquidate the Catroni family once he was finished with the Rock Machine. Boucher, he approved of Steiner, whose work ethic contrasted strongly with Carroll, who was a self-proclaimed party animal. Yeah.
Well, Kane mentioned to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police that Steiner had been living in Montreal since he was a teenager, but that he had never taken Canadian citizenship, which led the Canadian government to go to the court seeking an injunction to deport his ass back to the States. May of 96, Steiner's bodyguard, Donald Magnuson, they called him Bam Bam, he lost his temper at a party and murdered David Boyko, who was the leader of a Winnipeg biker gang, the Los Bravos, who were planning on patching over to become the Hells Angels. That caused some problems with the Angels' plans to expand into the prairies, I would assume, right?
Yeah. I guess. Magnuson, he was unintelligent, had only been recruited into the Angels because of his size, his strength, and brutality.
Useful idiot.
Carroll became convinced that nobody could be as stupid as Magnuson, which led him to the conclusion that he must be an undercover policeman working to destroy the Angels from within. Steiner, he was not even included in the Nomads chapter at all. And he was planning in October 96 on forming his cell within the Montreal cell chapter and what appeared to be a challenge to Boucher's authority. A month later, in 1996, the Rock Machine planted a bomb in the old Angels bunker in they had a bunker? In St. Nicholas and the residential neighborhood where it was located. It was shaken by the immense force of the blast.
Oh, wow.
The bunker received significant damage, which it should. Carroll offered Kane to kill Magnuson in order that Kane was reticent to fulfill, as Magnuson was a full patch angel, while Kane was only a rocker. Such a violation of Angels etiquette could have resulted in Kane's own death.
Not if it's coming from one of the big guys.
Right. At Kane's request, the police visited Magnuson to warn him that the other Angels were planning to murder this big son of a bitch. But he dismissed the warnings and completely as a police provocation intended to turn him against his brothers.
All right. Well,
He's
December
like, you
95.
lying, motherfuckers. They'll
I
never
know what
do
you guys
that.
are trying to do.
Right.
Fuck off my property. December 95, Steiner purchased the mansion previously owned by the Lavagure family in the 80s on Laval's expensive Ile aux Prouches Island, which is part of the Hochelaga Archipelago, in which he was married in the summer of 96. A deportation order was served on Steiner, who was born in Milwaukee, ordered him to leave Canada by the 14th of November 96.
Oh, damn.
But his lawyers were able to avoid the deportation order, arguing that he had just married a Canadian woman with whom he had a child, making it inhumane to make him go back to the United
Right,
States.
you can't do that. Besides the marriage ceremony at the Lavagure mansion, Steiner, he also used his estate to make a pornographic film entitled The Babe Angel. It starred himself and 9 of his prostitutes.
All right. Good for you, bud.
August 1996, Salvatore Cazzetta, who was being held in a Parthenias detention center prior to his extradition to the United States. He was attacked and wounded by 6 prisoners in a jailhouse contract. Ooh-wee.
Jeez. October 18th, 96, the president of the Rock Machine Montreal chapter, Ronald Jeanfay, alongside Christian Deschaines of the Rock Machine, were shot and killed while eating in a Chinese restaurant in Verdun.
Son of a bitch.
The Rock Machine leader was seated with fellow club members and Raymond Laurel in a booth at the rear of the Chinese restaurant known as Restaurant Kim Hoa, which was located on Wellington Street.
Okay.
A man entered the establishment and approached the table, fired several shots, and fled out of the rear of the building. Jeanfay and Deschaines were killed, while Laurel was wounded in the shoulder.
Son of a bitch. One of the Paradis brothers, Peter Paradis, he would succeed Jeanfay as president of the Montreal chapter, taking over much of his business in the suburb of Verdun. As one of the club's most prominent members, Marcel Demers became an assassination target for the Angels. December 1996, Bruno Van Lerberg, a member of the Quebec City chapter of the Angels, was murdered while he was eating at a restaurant. Shot him 6 times. Damn. February 97, Magnuson beat up Leonardo Rizzuto, the son of Vito Rizzuto, in a bar fight, which led to a request from the Rizzuto family for Magnuson's
now you're
murder.
really going to get it, Magnuson.
Yeah, you don't beat up mafia guys.
Jeez. March 28, 97, Kane's lover, a Rocker member, Amy Simmerd, stated he was acting under the orders of Rocker president, a man known as Gregory Woolley, they call him Pissarro. He murdered Jean-Marc Casey as he entered the Montreal arena to play hockey with his friends.
I'm sure he did.
After being arrested, Simmerd agreed to work for the Royal Canadian Mounted Police as he was terrified of his gayness being exposed. Simmerd also turned on his lover Kane, revealing to the police that Kane had committed 3 murders over the last 2 years, which caused the Royal Canadian Mounted Police to sever contact with Kane for 2 years.
Oh, that's it?
Jeez.
Wow. Damn. Simard gave the Crown evidence that Gregory Pissarro Woolley, a Haitian immigrant, was eating cats.
Shit.
He was working as Boucher's bodyguard. And he was also an assassin for the Angels, saying that despite being black, Woolley was accepted by the otherwise all-white Angels as he was their best killer.
Hey.
Woolley had founded a street gang of fellow Haitian immigrants based on the north end of Montreal in the poor neighborhood of Saint-Michel, where many Haitians lived at that time, initially known as the Crackdown Posse. And it was renamed the Syndicate in 1998.
Okay. Well, they wore blue gang colors that were closely modeled after the hats and clothing worn by the Crips in the USA. The Syndicate began engaging in extortion rackets and robbing convenience stores before moving on to serve as drug dealers and killers for the Angels, becoming well known in Montreal for doing the dirty work that even the Angels didn't even want to do.
Damn right.
Woolley was president of the Rockers, the Hells Angels puppet club in Montreal, and although he could never hope to join the Angels proper as a black man, he maintained very close ties with them. Whatever.
All right, what are you going to do? Pretty much there, right? For reasons that remain unclear, Woolley had no qualms about serving as the bodyguard for the white supremacist.
Money, baby.
Right. For the white supremacist Boucher. However, Simard, he proved to be a poor witness on the stand, and Woolley's trial for the first-degree murder ended with his acquittal. Afterwards, the Crown disavowed.
You're getting murdered, Simard.
Afterwards, the Crown was like, you know what, Simard? We have no more fucking use for you, buddy. They said that he failed to even fulfill his side of the bargain, as Woolley was still a free man, and it ended its protection for him in 1999, placing him in the general prison population. Throw him out with the dogs, right? Wolves. The Angels put out a jailhouse contract on Simard's life, and in 2003, murdered by a fellow inmate, stabbed him to death with a homemade knife, inflicting over 187 wounds. This happened at the federal prison where he was being held in Saskatchewan.
Oh, jeez. See, that they should get They should get charged for murder,
Right.
Because they knew he was going to get murdered.
Knowingly, yeah.
Jeez. May 97, Giovanni Cazzetta of the Rock Machine was arrested when a Rock Machine member turned police informer asked him to buy 15 kilos of cocaine.
Son of a bitch.
Cazzetta introduced the informer to Richard Maddox, who was the brother of Gerald, who ran the West End gang. Maddox told the informer he could not supply 15 on a very short notice, but he did sell him 9 for $350,000. Okay.
It works for me.
Jeez. Cassetta was then sent back to prison for violating his 1993 parole, and in 1998 was sentenced to 9 years after his conviction.
Wow.
Maddox, in his part, was sentenced to only 3. He was the drug dealer.
Right. Son of a bitch. They didn't want him. 21st of May, 1997, National President Claude Vezina and his Sergeant-at-Arms Danny Legare, they call him Legros, They were both charged with trafficking of narcotics.
Oh.
In order to conduct his arrest, the Popo had to sneak by guard dogs that he had located on his property. They entered his home and arrested him in his bedroom. This was the result of a sting operation set up by the Quebec Popo. A police informant had completed 7 transactions of narcotics with the 2 members of Rock Machine during a 5-month period. The massive raid launched by authorities as part of the Operation Carcajou resulted in the seizure of a laboratory where narcotics such as PCP and methamphetamine were produced.
Wow. 1.5 million worth of various other narcotics, over 225 kilograms of dynamite, along with detonators, 7 pistols, 2 fully automatic machine guns, 3 semi-automatic carbines, and a pistol suppressor were also found. Jeez. After the arrest of Vezina, Frederic Faucher, he became the Rock Machine's new national president on September 11, 1997. Alain Red Tomato Brunette was promoted to president of the Quebec City chapter. All right. Brunette Redhead.
You know, it's a lot of stuff in history happened on September 11th, dude.
I mean, or just
It's crazy. Just, right.
we just know that date.
Right. At that very same time, the great Nordic biker war was taking place.
Sure was.
And the Rock Machine was impressed with the way that the Scandinavian branches of the Bandidos held their own against the Scandinavian branches of the Hells Angels. June 1997, 3 leaders of the Rock Machine, Fred Fauché, Johnny Plesio, and Robert Tout Leaguer, they all went to Stockholm to seek support from the Swedish branch of the Bandidos. But guess what? Expelled by the Swedish Popo, who declared that they did not even want any Canadians in their country, let alone biker gangs.
Fauché, he had gained wide attention in underworld circles by blowing up the Hells Angels clubhouse in Quebec City, February of 97, and after the Rock Machine's leader, Claude Vezina, was arrested for drug smuggling. Yes, we know. He decided the best hope for the Rock Machine was to have the club absorbed into the Bandidos, which was the second largest outlaw biker club in the world. He did that in a bid to internationalize the conflict.
Got to do something here, because you're not going to win against the Angels.
Right.
Well, he invited George Wiegers, the president of the Bandidos in the United States. He said, come to Canada. However, a dinner that Fauché held for Wiegers at the expensive Quebec City restaurant on 28th of October 1997 ended in a huge fiasco when the old Popo arrived and announced that since Wiegers had a lengthy criminal record in the United States, that he was not even wanted in Canada, and that they were to escort him back to the airport to put him on the first flight back home.
Bye.
Get your ass out of here, you son of a bitch.
Yeah. And a former Rock Machine member, Norman Brisbois, he stated in an interview, the Hells Angels were 10 times more powerful and organized than us. Another former Rock Machine member, Gilles Lalonde, said the Rock Machine were more like just drug dealers.
Right.
They weren't much of an organized club. The Angels were more like a big business.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. There was a widespread belief with the Rock Machine that joining the Bandidos was their only hope to win the biker war. 2 members of the Angels who came into conflict with Boucher were Steiner and Donald Magnuson. Magnuson. David Carroll, they call him Wolf, one of the nomads, charged that the 2 were working for the police, noting that the Crown was completely unsuccessful in its efforts to deport Steiner back to the U.S., which led him to the conclusion that Steiner must have been working for the cops all along.
Well, meanwhile, Kane, who was anxious to distract attention from himself, he did everything to encourage Carroll in his line of thinking, saying Steiner must be police. It must be the police mole inside the Angels. Contributing to suspicions about Steiner and Magnuson was the interception of a shipment containing 31 kilos of marijuana and 200 ecstasy pills sent by the duo to be sold to drug dealers in northern Ontario. While the RCMP was tipped off by Kane, he accused Steiner and Magnuson of the tip-off. Oh, jeez. Steiner and Magnuson were last seen alive 4th of November 1997, leaving the Labaugur mansion to see Boucher. The bodies of them were later found floating in the St. Lawrence River with their hands tied behind their backs and their heads beaten to a bloody mush, showing wounds from repeated blows from baseball bats and hammers.
Son of a bitch died
They gave him taught him a lesson, didn't they?
Yeah, they beat him like they did what's-his-face in Casino.
Yeah.
Son of a bitch. 1997, an imprisoned Hells Angel, Dennis Howell. He was the victim of an unsuccessful assassination attempt when a Rock Machine member opened fire on him from beyond the prison fence. Holy shit. The resulting investigation first alerted the public to the existence of Dark Circle, and it was reported that the Angels would pay well for information identifying the members of the Dark Circle. Over the next 2 years, 2 members of the Dark Circle were murdered by the Angels, while a third only escaped when the Angels shot and killed the wrong Serge. Serge Hervoy, a 38-year-old father of 2, was murdered, damn you, when the Angels mistook him for the employer Serge Bruno, who was a member of the Dark Circle. 1997 saw 27 murders committed as part of this very biker war. Holy shit.
All right, well, don't really like to do this, but I think we have to here because we're already an hour and something in. We got at least an hour or more to go, so we're going to have to end this right here for part 1. Part 2 is only going to get bloodier as we got all the way. We got 5 more years of this shit to get hashed out.
That's when the good stuff comes.
And, yeah, so that's the first part of the old Quebec biker war, and you more like a mafia war right here going on.
Yeah.
So.
Except for the brutal murders that are just killing everybody.
Yeah.
Idiots. I'm glad that freaking truck got towed away.
These
That would have fucking took a whole city block.
these guys don't care who's in the way; they'll do it. As long as they get their target, I guess. So maybe we'll hold off on next week's remastered and do.
Yeah, I mean, the remaster is only there to fill in time.
Right, and we'll do part 2 next week. So instead of remastered next week, we'll do part 2 of the Quebec Biker War, and then after that, we're on to another serial killer. So make sure you're joining us on YouTube at Bang Dang Network or Spotify, Apple. Share us with your friends, answer that Spotify question, and give us a review. We'll be back next week for more Outlaws and Gunslingers. We are the Monthly Michiganders.
Bang Dang.